Welcome back to the program. If you're just joining us, this is the News Center right on KTN News. Now, the first batch of 50 out of 100 Cuban doctors arrived in the country on Tuesday amid controversy surrounding their pay. The doctors landed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Tuesday night and were received by Kisumu Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. The medics will then be deployed to all 47 counties after a two-week induction exercise starting on June 8th. It is not yet clear how much each doctor will earn, as this has to be decided by the Public Service Commission, that is the PSC, as was stated by Health Cabinet Secretary Cicely Kariuki.
Doctors who will be taken, one doctor from every county, and I think 3 from Nairobi. So that's a total of 50 doctors who will go and spend a program of 2 years training again in the area that I've said Cuba has excelled in, which is family medicine, being able to work at really the front edge of healthcare, the primary healthcare.
But this program is fully supported by the Council of Governors. In fact, we had a Council of Governors meeting yesterday, and one of the things we discussed was receiving the Cuban doctors. And I'm here on behalf of the Council of Governors.
This is a topic that has become rather controversial in Kenya, and at the moment the court has issued orders stopping the government from recruiting these doctors from Cuba. Now, just to tell us more about the Cuban doctors and perhaps, their speciality and everything, I have my colleague in studio, Dr. Mercy Korir, with me. Dr. good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Yusuf.
to see you.
It's a pleasure to see you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, welcome.
So,
can you perhaps take us through some of the specialities of these doctors?
Well, this has been a very controversial topic, as you have rightly said. And originally, there was the number of the doctors that are supposed to come were 100.
Yes.
And they're still 100. So there are different specialities that had originally been sought by the government. Out of these specialities, not all of them were gotten in Cuba because, well, Cuba is a Spanish-speaking country. Yes. Kenya is an English-speaking country. But at the workplace, yes, predominantly it's a Swahili. Most doctors engage with their patients in Swahili or even the local dialect or the local language according to that area. Now. So it was tricky. So they were not able initially to get all the different cadres, which I'll take us through initially, because they were looking at getting 9 orthopedic surgeons. They've managed to get 5 orthopedic surgeons to come into the country, 9 intensive care physicians. These are doctors who will primarily be working in the ICUs in the various counties. They managed to get those 9. They were looking at getting 6 general surgeons. They managed to get 5 general surgeons who will be coming into the country. Cardiologists are supposed to be 3. These are doctors who will be dealing with heart matters most of the time. So they managed to get those 3 cardiologists, and they will be deployed to the different counties. Now, they were looking for 5 plastic surgeons. They managed to get 3 plastic surgeons. These are doctors who will be dealing with issues of corrective and reconstructive surgery during burns or bad injuries that people sustain during their normal day-to-day activities. So they managed to get 3. They were looking for 5 urologists. They managed to get 3 urologists from Cuba. These are doctors who deal mainly with male issues. They were looking for 1 radiologist at the time. They managed to get 3 radiologists who will be coming into the country, and they will be deployed to the different counties. 3 neurosurgeons were sought in Cuba, but they managed to get 1 neurosurgeon who will be going to Kisumu, to the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital. Because they didn't get 3, they managed to get 1 who will be going to Kisumu. Now, the family physicians, which has been a very hot topic, they were looking for 47 family physicians, 1 for each county, but they got 53 because they needed to get a total number of 100 doctors to come into the country. So these are the doctors that have come into the country. There are 100 of them. They will be deployed. But remember that the Employment and Labor Relations Court issued conservatory orders stopping their deployment, and they based this on the arguments that the doctors presented that they had not been given a chance to apply for these positions, and so that they can also be given fair chance with the Cuban doctors. So they have stopped deployment of the Cuban doctors pending the ruling, which will be on 19th, which is obviously something that we'll be keeping tabs on, so as to, you know, update the country on what will be happening to these Cuban doctors. Now, on the other part of this bilateral agreement between Kenya and the Cuban government was with the 100 Cuban doctors coming into the country, Kenya will take 50 of its own doctors for training for family medicine in Cuba for a period of 2 years.
Yes.
So we are yet to hear if there are any doctors that have volunteered and are willing to go for this training. But this being a very controversial topic.
It is controversial, and Dr. I'm sure you'll agree with me that the debate is all about whether we need the Cuban doctors or we need the Cuban system. And even as we debate that, can you perhaps clear the air for us for this one once and for all? Because we're getting reports that these doctors are going to be paid about, is it 800,000 Kenyan shillings? They'll be put in job group S. Is it something that has come out clear?
Yes.
Because that is too much, if you ask me.
The government has said that these specialists will be paid at job group S. Now, if we base job group S according to the doctors' collective bargaining agreement that they got last year after their strike, then this is an average of about 450,000 Kenya shillings.
That is way more than what our doctors are paid.
It is because our consultants or the doctors here are in job group PQ, most of them. And these are doctors who've been in the public service for even 15, 20 years. They have stagnated in some of these job groups. So that is why some of them were complaining that this is discriminatory. Apart from being paid in job group S, these Cuban doctors will be provided with security, will be provided with housing, they'll be provided with transport, international and local transport, according to the MOU that they signed between the national government and the county government. So the doctors in Kenya have been saying this is everything that we have been asking for so that we can go work in those regions like the Cuban doctors. So this is where the push and pull has been, because on one hand, the government is saying they're providing healthcare services and they're bringing specialists. On the other hand, the Kenyan doctors are saying, we are here, we are ready to be employed. We are seeing this as a discriminatory move by the government. So that's why there's a really there's a push and pull between the government and the doctors. And that's why the court case next week will be really will really determine how we move forward with this Cuban story.
Of course, we'll wait and see. Thank you very much, Dr. Mercy, for your input there. Of course, that is Dr. Mercy, our in-house health correspondent, giving us her perspective with regards to the Cuban doctors. Of course, she's giving us her perspective through the eyes of a journalist, at the same time through the eyes of a doctor. Now, over to Rwanda.